Emeka sat up in bed again, restless. His sheets tangled around him like ropes of frustration. Another night without sleep. At 29, with a steady job, a furnished apartment in the city, and respect among his peers, he should have been at peace. But peace never came, not with his mother's voice echoing through his head every night. Before you turn 30, I must see you married. A man without a wife is half a man. He had tried. Lord knows he had tried. From campus days to his early career. He chased love with open arms, only to be left scarred each time. One ex left him for money, another for his best friend, and the last broke him completely, vanishing without a goodbye. Since then he closed his heart, deciding women were temporary pleasures, not lifetime companions. But Mama refused to accept that. To her, his singleness was a curse on her name. And so, without his consent, she took matters into her own hands. One Friday evening, she arrived at his flat with a girl in tow, Ediora. "This one is untouched," she declared proudly. "I examined her myself. She is decent, respectful, a virgin, fertile enough to give me grandchildren." Emeka's jaw tightened. He wanted to scream to send both women out. But Mama's pride was sacred. Out of respect, he swallowed his objections and let Ediora stay. He told himself she would be nothing more than a flatmate. No intimacy, no temptation, no strings. He thought that by drawing the line, he had won the battle. But from the moment Ediora walked into his life, sleepless nights took a new meaning. At first glance, Ediora carried herself like the quiet village girl his mother had promised. Soft-spoken, humble, her eyes lowered whenever he addressed her. Emeka convinced himself she would be no disturbance. But by the end of the first week, he realized he had underestimated her completely. Started small. On Saturday morning, she bent over sweeping the living room, the oversized shirt she wore clinging to her curves in all the wrong places. By evening, she cooked wearing a sleeveless top that exposed the swell of her breasts as she reached across the counter. Each time she bent to wash plates, Emeka's eyes betrayed him before he caught himself and looked away. And then came the bathroom door, always left half open whenever she bathed. Through the mist of steam, he would catch the faint silhouette of a body too tempting to be ignored. His blood stirred like a furnace, his chest tightening with shame as he retreated to his room, fists clenched. But what unsettled him most wasn't her boldness, it was his own reaction. He, the man who once swore never to be moved by a woman again, now found himself restless at night replaying glimpses he had no business watching. Yet in the mornings he forced composure, masking the war inside. To his friends, he dismissed her entirely. "My mother brought me one ugly village girl," he laughed over beers. They roared, mocking the idea, teasing him for being trapped. But deep down guilt chewed at him. Ugly. Well, there was nothing ugly about Ediora. And though he denied it, she was already winning. Saturday evening, the boys came over to watch football. Emeka had warned Ediora to keep to herself, but when the knock came, she rushed to the door before he could stop her. The moment she opened it, the air shifted. She stood there in a simple gown that somehow clung to every curve. Her hair loosened around her shoulders, her skin glowing with the softness of evening light. His friends froze, stunned. One whispered under his breath, "Nawa o Emeka, this is the ugly girl you told us about." Emeka's chest tightened with embarrassment, then fury. Throughout the match, he caught them stealing glances at her. When she walked past with a tray of snacks, every pair of eyes followed the sway of her hips. Their laughter grew louder, their compliments more reckless. And then it hit him, jealousy. A burning, bitter fire he didn't expect. The same woman he dismissed as nothing was now the reason his friends forgot the game on the screen. When she leaned to place a plate before them, one friend's gaze lingered too long. Something snapped. "Ediora!" Emeka barked, his voice sharp enough to silence the room. "Go to your room. Don't come out until they're gone." Her eyes widened, glassy with tears. "But I was only..." "Now!" he thundered. The tray rattled as she fled, the door to her room shutting softly behind her. His friends shifted uncomfortably, their eyes on him. "Guy, that was harsh," one muttered. "She's just being nice. You should treat her better." Emika's jaw locked. Their words stung not because they were wrong, but because he knew why he was angry. She was getting under his skin, pushing him into feelings he didn't want to admit. The heat, the jealousy, the hunger. When his friends finally left, silence fell. Alone in his room, he replayed her tearful face. But what he didn't see was the wicked smile she wore once her door closed. Her plan was working. Every outburst was proof he was cracking. And Adeora knew men like Emika always cracked. Night fell heavy over the apartment, but Emika's mind was still racing. The look on Adeora's face as she ran to her room haunted him, though he tried to shake it off. He sat at his desk pretending to work, but every sound from the hallway, the creak of her floorboard, the soft thud of her slippers, sent his pulse racing. Hours later, he heard a faint knock. He opened his door to find her standing there, wrapped in a silk robe so thin it was nearly transparent. Her hair tumbled around her shoulders, her eyes red as if she had been crying. But beneath the sadness was something darker, deliberate. "Emika, I'm sorry if I offended you," she whispered, her voice trembling as she stepped inside. The robe slipped slightly, revealing a flash of bare skin. "I just want peace between us." She moved closer, hugging herself, then suddenly leaned forward. Her arms wrapped around him, pressing her body into his. The silk did little to hide the hard peaks of her nipples grazing his chest. His body reacted instantly. Heat surged through him, his breath quickening. His hands almost betrayed him, hovering near her waist before he clenched them into fists. "Adeora," his voice cracked. "Go back to your room." She looked up at him with glistening eyes, biting her lip as if wounded. "So you won't even forgive me?" He shoved her away gently but firmly, heart pounding, sweat breaking across his forehead. "It's fine. I've forgiven you. Just leave." She turned slowly, swaying her hips deliberately as she walked out, the robe clinging to her curves, half open, teasing him with every step. When the door shut behind her, Emika collapsed into his chair, breathing hard. His manhood strained painfully against his trousers, proof of the fire she was stoking inside him. That night he took 2 cold baths, each one failing to quench the heat. Lying in bed, he muttered to himself, "No, this cannot happen. I will not fall for her trap." But even as he swore it, the scent of her perfume lingered in the air, invading his dreams. By morning, Emika wore exhaustion like a second skin. The cold baths had done little to erase the images of Adeora's body pressed against his. He dressed for work quickly, determined to escape the apartment before she could start another game. But just as he straightened his tie in the mirror, the door creaked. "Good morning, sir," she purred, stepping inside without invitation. This time she wore a fitted blouse, unbuttoned just enough to tease. She reached for his tie with a smile. "Since you say you've forgiven me, allow me to help." He froze, his reflection betraying the storm inside. Her fingers brushed his chest as she tugged at the knot, her scent washing over him. Slowly, she slid the fabric through, her body pressing closer than necessary. "Is it tight enough?" she whispered into his ear, her breath hot on his skin. "If it's not tight, I can give you something tighter and slippery." Then she giggled, lips grazing his jaw before she turned and walked out, hips swaying deliberately. Emika's knees weakened. He gripped the dresser, forcing himself to breathe. Something wasn't adding up. His mother had called her pure, untouched, but Adeora moved with the confidence of a woman well-schooled in desire. No virgin teased like this. And Adeora. She was growing restless. Behind her sweet smile, fury brewed. No man had resisted her this long. She had given him every charm, every weapon, yet he stood firm. Why? Didn't he realize she was running out of time? Because the truth was darker than Emika imagined. Adeora wasn't here to build a home or give his mother grandchildren out of love. She was no virgin bride. She was already carrying another man's seed, a reckless village lover who had abandoned her. If Emika gave in, her plan would be sealed. The child would be his in everyone's eyes. Her place in his wealthy, comfortable life would be secured. But Emika, stubborn and disciplined, was unknowingly fighting for far more than his self-control. He was fighting to save himself from a trap carefully laid in silk and perfume. Days passed, and the apartment turned into a battlefield of temptation. Adeora escalated her games, leaving her lingerie forgotten on the couch, humming love songs as she washed dishes, bending a little too low when she knew he was watching. Emika tried to ignore her, but his restraint was cracking piece by piece. One night, the rain came hard, hammering the roof like drumming fingers. The power went out, plunging the house into shadows. Emika lit a candle in his room, trying to distract himself with paperwork, when the door creaked. She slipped inside, wearing only a short satin nightdress, rainwater glistening on her skin from her dash to fetch laundry. The candle light flickered across her curves, making her look almost unreal. "I was scared," she whispered, stepping closer. "The thunder, can I stay here?" Before he could respond, she sat on his bed, crossing her legs slowly, the hem of her nightdress rising high. Her eyes locked on his, unblinking, daring him. "Emika," she said softly, "don't you feel it? This fire between us." Her hand touched his arm, sliding down to his wrist. He inhaled sharply, his pulse racing. For the first time, his will nearly broke. He leaned in, their lips inches apart, her breath warm against his mouth. His hand rose unconsciously, brushing the edge of her thigh. Every nerve in his body screamed to take her. Then thunder crashed again, jolting him back to himself. Emika jerked away, standing abruptly. "No. This is wrong," he growled, fists clenched. "Go to your room, Adeora." For a flicker of a second, her face cracked, anger flashing behind her sweetness. But she quickly masked it with a trembling smile. "As you wish," she murmured, rising gracefully. As she left, her hips swayed deliberately, her perfume clinging to him like chains. When the door shut, Emika collapsed against the wall, sweat dripping down his back. He had survived another battle, but barely. And Adeora. She wasn't discouraged. In her room, she placed a hand on her belly, whispering coldly to herself. "Soon. Very soon. He won't resist forever." The weekend came, and Emika's apartment buzzed again with the laughter of his friends. They had returned to watch another match, teasing him as usual about being married without knowing it. Emika forced a smile, but his eyes never left Adeora, who floated about the living room serving drinks with an almost angelic grace. But then one of his friends, Kunnel, frowned, squinting as if recognizing her. "Wait, isn't that Adeora from Umwahia?" he muttered. Emika's head snapped toward him. "You know her." Kunnel chuckled darkly. "Of course. She used to follow that troublemaker Chaik everywhere in the village. Everybody knew they were inseparable. But what's she doing here, dressed like a saint?" The words hit Emika like a slap. Heat rushed to his face. "What did you just say?" he barked, standing so suddenly the room went silent. Adeora froze, tray in her trembling hands, her smile faltering. Later, when his friends had left in awkward silence, he stormed into her room without knocking. She sat on the bed, her robe loosened carelessly, but there was no fear in her eyes this time, only defiance. "Tell me the truth," Emika growled, his voice low, dangerous. "Who are you? And who is this Chaik?" For a moment she tried to hold her mask, but then her lips curled into a bitter smile. "So you've finally heard." Her voice was sharp now, her village innocence gone. "Yes, I loved him. I still would have been with him if he hadn't left me with this." She pressed a hand to her belly. Emika's eyes widened, his chest tightening. "You're pregnant." Adeora rose, her robe falling open just enough to reveal her swelling curves. "And I need someone respectable to claim it. Someone like you." Don't you see? I gave you every chance to fall, Emika, but you're too stubborn. You could have had me willingly, and no one would question it. Well, I'll have to make sure you have no choice. For the first time, Emika saw her not as a seductress, not as his mother's chosen bride, but as a predator who had stalked him from the moment she arrived. The virgin his mother praised was nothing but a wolf in silk. 4 hours that night, Emika sat alone in the living room, his head in his hands. The truth gnawed at him. His mother's perfect bride was nothing but a trap, a pregnant wolf cloaked in innocence. Rage swelled inside him. Rage at Eduora, at his mother, at himself for almost falling. Near midnight her door creaked open. Eduora stepped out, this time not in silk or lace, but in a simple wrapper. Yet her eyes still glistened with the same wicked confidence. "You can't fight me forever," she whispered, kneeling beside him. "If you claim me, everyone will believe the child is yours. Your mother will rejoice. Your friends will respect you. And you will finally sleep in peace." Her hand slid onto his thigh, her nails grazing lightly. The temptation surged again, fierce and undeniable. He could almost taste her lips, feel the warmth of her body, imagine the relief of giving in. But then something stronger rose within him, clarity. He pushed her hand away, standing tall. "No, Eduora. I will not be your escape. I will not be chained by lies." His voice thundered through the room. "You think love is a game of traps and tricks. You're wrong. I'd rather be mocked for being single than enslaved by deceit." For the first time, Eduora's confidence cracked. Her lips trembled, her eyes widening in shock. She had seduced many men, broken many hearts, but she had never been rejected so completely. Tears welled, but Emika turned away, unmoved. The next morning he called his mother, laying bare the truth. She wept in shame, begging forgiveness. Emika, calmer now, only said, "Mama, love cannot be forced. A wife isn't chosen like yams in the market. She is found when the heart is ready." Eduora packed her things in silence, her dream of security shattered. As she left, she glanced back once, her face a mix of anger and regret. But Emika no longer burned. He felt free. For the first time in months, he slept soundly, learning that real strength wasn't in resisting temptation, it was in walking away from what was never meant for him.